Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Driven. My name is Rivers Pierce, and today I have the honor of having Scott Shapiro in the car with me. He is from Facebook, and he's actually in Charleston. We're on my home turf this time around, and yet again it's rainy and cloudy outside, but we're gonna drive around and talk a little bit about real estate and Facebook, and really excited to have you. So Scott, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us about yourself? We'll go from there.
Sure. Hi, I am Scott Shapiro. I'm a client partner from Facebook and Instagram. I've been at Facebook and Instagram for going on 5 years this September. I came from a traditional media background at ABC, Disney, the 9 years prior to Facebook. And I've had a really great time at Facebook doing a lot of different verticals. I've worked with banks, health insurance companies and whatnot, but love being in the real estate industry and the space. Look forward to doing some innovative things over the next year or two together, and really enjoy the industry as a whole. I find the people I meet to be super genuine and super entrepreneurial, and that's a lot of excitement for me every day.
That definitely hit the nail on the head about the industry for sure. So why don't you kind of talk about what your team does at Facebook, and working with, why you work with a company like BoomTown?
Sure, happy to do so. What we do at Facebook is we work with leading industry providers to work through figuring out marketing and advertising strategy, so that clients such as BoomTown can take advantage of our platforms to drive success for their end clients. So ultimately what we're looking to do is figure out ways and strategies where a dollar put on Facebook drives, $3, $5, $10 of ad spend return. So that's what we're charged with, is to figure that out, to help design strategy and help to really make sure that our best clients are using our platform in a way that sees success for them.
Right. And so I guess for those in the real estate world, there's 1.23 million realtors.
That's right.
They're all entrepreneurial. They're small business owners, if you will.
That's right.
It's not necessarily scalable, or it's almost impossible for a company to work with all of them at an individual level.
That's right.
And so you have partners like companies like BoomTown, where Facebook would partner with us to be able to provide scalable services to the real estate industry at large. Would that be correct? Kind of the model there? So for those of you who are watching, through a company like us, you get access to people like Scott and his fantastic team, and the support and the tool set and the technology and that they bring to the table. And then they also work with us on the technology that we have built off of their platform and APIs that allow us to do very real estate specific things through the Facebook platform.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely right.
Hit the nail on the head there on that one.
Nailed it.
So I'm usually talking to real estate professionals or coaches and whatnot, and so, this is a little bit of a different conversation. But, we're obviously, BoomTown's a technology company.
That's right.
What kind of impact have you seen, or do you think you've seen in the time you've been working in the space, and obviously you've been working with Facebook for several years, that technology has had on, maybe just the world in general, and how that filters down into home buying, home ownership, the whole process of finding real estate and agents? I mean, what do you think that impact has been?
I think the biggest impact, Rivers, is still about the mobile device. So if you think about the smartphone, we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone, the first iPhone. And I think what we've seen in the space is that mobile has changed the way consumers look to learn about what they're going to buy and how they make decisions about what they're going to buy, not only in real estate, but cars, travel, e-commerce. So what we've seen, especially over the 5 years I've been at Facebook, is the value of being a first-in-class mobile marketer is key. So what I will tell partners of mine is, if you don't have a mobile-first strategy, you don't have a marketing strategy, period, and stop the conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's that integral to the world we live in today. So if we think about it, a device the age of a fourth grader or a fifth grader is really the leading, consumer device that we have out there right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's been one of the big things. And I think one of the things that we consistently think through every day as a platform is how to deliver that best-in-class experience on a mobile device. So every morning when I wake up or I think about strategy, it's always with the end user on a cell phone thinking through how do we provide additive solutions back to our end clients in a mobile-first world.
And you guys have definitely tackled mobile.
We have.
And that was an issue for, how is Facebook going to tackle mobile, or who is going to tackle mobile
That's
first and best? And I think you guys have clearly, you're owning that game. I mean, Instagram is mobile only.
Mobile only. But I think it speaks to laser focus and ruthless prioritization. I mean, when we looked at where the world was going and being a mobile first world, we had to become a mobile first company. So my advice to real estate professionals would be, how do you make your individual business mobile first, mobile best? How do you think about the end consumer who is ingesting data, ingesting, your property, looking at different properties, thinking about these things? Is that working in a mobile way? Are they able to easily access it from a mobile device?
Right.
And if they are, then you're ahead of the game. If you're not, then you've slipped behind, because it really is a mobile, always on, always first world that we live in.
Good point. What do you think some of the misconceptions are, or even myths, I guess, of mobile marketing or Facebook advertising that you've seen in the real estate space?
Sure. I think the thought, social engagement can be misleading. Likes and shares and comments versus end results for your product. So, we look at leads, we look at GCI, we look at driving business results. To us, when we do that, we've succeeded.
Yep.
We've earned our seat at the table. We become additive to your everyday business.
Business results being closed deals.
Absolutely.
Or at least opportunities that, obviously you can't close the deal for them. But
I'm not sure a house has ever been sold based on a like. Now, it may be a share because somebody saw something, but
sure.
What we want to look at is we want to be measured as a business partner for our end clients. So if we're driving, if the end result is obviously to sell a home, that's how we look at success, which is, are we being additive to the process, and are we being additive for your business so that gets done? At the end of the day, if the charge is go sell that house and we're not getting the job done for you, then we're not living up to our expectations.
So do you think, I think exactly like the vanity metrics that Facebook provides, yes, they go hand in hand with a lot of the vanity metrics of the real estate space, but again, a branding play doesn't sell the house necessarily. Right?
No.
But I think also, there are a lot of misconceptions out there that, people think, oh, well, I just buy my leads from Facebook, right? Right. And we've heard this time and again, but that's not the case, right? So what is that misconception? What do you think where do you think that confusion comes from?
I think we have a lot of players in the ecosystem who are maybe making some promises that aren't necessarily aligned with what we as Facebook would constitute as best practices. I think a lot of people speak on knowing Facebook, marketing, and I'm not 100% sure that all players in the space are accurately describing their knowledge.
Right.
And so I think there can be a misconception of what you're buying in the end product.
Yeah.
So, we are an open platform. Anybody can go in and build off of our API. I mean, if our daughters were old enough and wanted to build a bot, they could.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of Facebook. So I think one of the things that, if I'm a real estate professional, I'm looking at is, what companies in the space are doing it right in totality in digital marketing? And usually that correlation point between excellent digital marketing will also come down from Facebook.
Right.
If you know how to do great digital marketing across the scope, you're thinking about how to do Facebook and Instagram best of class property. So that's one thing I would suggest and look for is somebody who knows the whole spectrum is probably going to know our platform a hell of a lot better than others.
Absolutely, and basically don't just take somebody's word at blind faith.
That's right.
Like, get references, get referrals, check out their website.
That's right.
Are they a partner? Have they gone through some of your training?
I would almost think about it, Rivers, is when a realtor is out selling their services, a lot of what they lean upon are references and people who know who know the quality of their work. And I would say do the same due diligence when you're using third-party providers to represent your business in a digital marketing space.
Absolutely.
So a little bit of research will go a long way. You'll start to weed out people who know the space versus people who don't know the space. I think, looking at companies that have driven success for other partners is a key. It's so important to getting it right.
Yeah, and I think, people, there's still, I've been doing digital marketing for 12 years probably, 12 years now. We're kind of old school, we're old now, right,
yes,
in the
we
space.
Yeah.
There's still a general misconception that digital marketing is this easy thing.
No.
It's not 2004 or 5 anymore. It's not, and when I started doing digital marketing, Facebook advertising didn't even exist.
That's right.
I don't even think it was like out of college stuff yet,
no,
right?
Probably
so
not.
I was just doing AdWords and whatnot. But it's still like, you can't game the system anymore on any of these products, any of these platforms. There's a reason why we have 20 plus people at BoomTown internally that are on our digital marketing team that are doing advertising, building products.
That's right.
I think one of the things we see is like if you want to be a digital marketer, go be a digital marketer, but don't try to moonlight as a real estate agent.
That's right.
That's not going to be effective.
That's right.
But using your platform can be a bit deceptive in that sense. You can boost a post.
That's right.
And yes, you can get some reach, but if you really want to do it well, you really want to use the full set of the Ads Manager platform and custom audiences and do it well, you're going to need a pro that knows what they're doing.
You definitely need someone who understands it inside and out.
Right.
And
it's complex. And it's not complex because you guys want to make a complex tool. It's complex because it needs to meet the demands of the modern consumer. And
that's right.
That's a complex landscape to navigate.
Yeah, and it's a very nuanced landscape.
Yeah.
And I think, talking about bringing in ingestion of data and creative best practices, and the fact that, again, as you think about, an omni-channel world, the consumer on any purchase, and especially a purchase that's once every 7 years, like a home,
and $500,000 or
$250,000, they're going to touch multiple points of entry to make that decision.
Yeah.
So, understanding the consumer behavior and working with professionals who can actually ascertain the data and understand and point you to the right places it's a huge key.
It's critical.
It is critical. It's why we built partnerships with companies such as BoomTown and others, because it is complex. And it's, by the way, why Google's done the same thing.
Sure.
It's not Facebook in a vacuum. I think digital marketing in totality, you have experts who get that, who really understand the platforms and really know how to turn the dials the right way to give you, the end user, success. By the way, and that also leads to your consumer being happier.
Sure.
Because they're getting the most pertinent, relevant information at the time they want it, when they need it.
Yeah.
Because when you use partnerships the right way, in the end, the consumer gets the right message at the right time.
Right.
And that's huge.
And that's critical as well.
Mission critical.
And I think it's also, we were talking about this earlier, that it's not just, you even alluded to it, it's like, you can't just use Facebook. You need to be thinking about search, you need to be thinking about social, you need to be thinking about email and text and call and all the regular traditional best practices.
That's right.
And we're not saying you don't need to do direct mail or out of home or TV or radio. It's just, how do you do them all in a world an omni-channel world where they all need to talk to each other. It needs to be tracked.
That's right.
And the messaging needs to be clear and not just scattered. Right.
That's right. And it needs to have a cogent endpoint, right?
Yeah.
So I think always, going back to the vanity metrics, the misinterpretation of Facebook, ultimately, you don't market anywhere to get a like or a share or a comment or a happy face. You're marketing with an end game in mind, which is most likely the sale of a real estate property on behalf of your client. So I always go back to, what's the end game? The end game is, we want to drive success. We want to get to the right consumers at the right time on the devices they're using most.
Yep.
And when you do it with the right partners and when you work together and you have the right expertise, that can get done. I think the misnomer is thinking that it's just easy and off the shelf.
Right.
I mean, anyone I've met who works at this works at it. They work at it to perfect it.
Yes. And that's the same thing with selling a home.
That's right. I could no more go out and sell a home than the man in the moon.
I agree.
I would need to learn about it. I would need to become an expert in it. I would need to be licensed, hopefully, to do it.
Right.
And that constitutes how you become best in class in something, is you become an expert.
So, obviously, one of the things people are always talking about in real estate is, you've got to be on top of a lead comes in the door, prospect comes in the door, there's 10 other people that they probably applied on, filled out something on their website. So that speed to lead, that communication strategy needs to be as close to immediate as possible, right? So, knowing that text is huge, texting and everything's mobile, messaging tools, i.e. Facebook Messenger, is a huge opportunity kind of that's up and coming, right? Where do you think that's going, the future state of Messenger and potentially WhatsApp, but the Messenger, the messaging type of platform play?
So in the year and a half since we've broken Messenger out from the Facebook app, we have over 1 billion users.
Wow.
So there is a huge appetite and use by consumers to use these tools each and every day, multiple times. And so what we wanted to do is make it more functional, make it more interactive, make it more engaging. And to a large part, I think what we're seeing is that adaptation is taking place. You don't get to 1 billion users without a good product.
Right.
I think the speed to lead commentary is very interesting, because just think about your everyday life. If you have to wait 6 or 7 minutes for an Uber, you're
frustrated.
That's a frustrating experience.
That's where we've come to.
It's where society. We've come to. It's the instant gratification of you're going to get back to me. And so I think the tool sets that we're trying to build with various bots and various experiences are so that when a consumer is in that moment to move, that there are tool sets available for our customers to actually reach out to their customers in a faster, lightweight fashion.
Right.
And I think what we're going to see more and more of is the bot experience will be a help to qualify and communicate faster in a lightweight fashion. It will open up the door to the longer conversation.
Right.
So I don't think it ever shuts off the longer, more serious conversation.
It doesn't replace the real estate professional.
No, absolutely not. What it does is, I think it aligns the consumer and the professional to where they are and sets the expectation going into that first initial conversation.
Right.
Is it that they have financing in place, they're ready to go, they know the neighborhood, and they saw your ad, and the reason why they're reaching out is, they are an immediate prospect versus, maybe somebody who's just starting the process but needs that consultative support and help. And so I see it as a tool to help align and focus on the clients that are coming in the door, so that you're prescribing the right type of support at that moment.
Right. So it's additive. It's
Absolutely.
You can't look. It's just looking at it as another tool in your toolbox.
That's right.
Right. And also, some people prefer that as their means of communication.
They do. This generation coming, the largest generational transfer of wealth is happening right now with the millennial generation. Baby boomers, I believe, there were 68 million baby boomers. There's 74.5 million millennials. And within that subset, to make it even more fun, you have millennials who are in their 30s, who are now buying homes and having children, and millennials who are getting their first job out of college, who are 24, 25.
Right.
So while we've all come up over the last 10 years on the power of mobile and smartphones, there are different ways to engage with the consumer set. And frankly, the younger millennial is much more apt to want a initial conversation through a messaging experience versus a phone call.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that they don't want the personalized care and service that you're going to bring to them eventually. But that first barrier to entry is going to probably be, frankly, on a messaging platform. Yep. And then it'll lead to that first in-depth sit down, getting the baseline established for the relationship. But it shouldn't be discounted by the real estate professional that that's not a valuable conversation.
Absolutely.
If anything, I think it is the most valuable conversation, because you can really ascertain what they need.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, do you want it's engagement.
That's right.
Right, and we've been pushing that a lot with our client base, is that instead of looking at like cost per lead, right? Obviously, we want to start looking at a real return, an ROI, but
that's right.
But what are those engagement metrics in between? Like the phone call, the text, the email, the messengers, whatever it is, you're communicating. And if somebody's talking back to you, I don't care what medium that is. Like,
That's
if it's a
right.
smoke signal, I'll take it, right?
Yeah,
Whatever.
and the world has grown smaller. So, I mean, if you think about it, it's a easy, lightweight, identifiable way to also communicate. The other thing that I think is interesting about Messenger versus SMS text is, an SMS text off of a phone number could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing about Messenger really is that you understand that I'm Scott.
Yep.
My real identity that is persistent across the Facebook family of apps and services actually transfers over to Messenger. So, you know who you're talking to from day one. I mean, there are times where, I'm sure this has happened to you, where, you'll get a text and you'll look at the phone number and you start to piece it together that, oh, that's Rivers.
Is this,
that's Scott.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Whereas I think Messenger, again, it takes down a barrier of entry point to having a really interesting and good conversation. So I wouldn't fear it at all.
Yeah.
I would look at it as a great way to start a conversation and a great way to understand what the needs of your end client are.
Right.
And
I think
it in a way that they love.
Exactly. And let's just put this out there, like, this doesn't mean stop everything you're doing and move all of your money into messenger-based marketing.
No.
It's a tool in your tool set.
That's right.
And keep an eye on it. It's not quite there yet, probably, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on as the younger generation is growing. And I use it all the time. I mean, and I'm 40 years old. I'm not quite. I'm a Gen Xer, I guess.
Yeah.
I still prefer initial consultation and whatnot via text or messenger or something like that.
I think consumer behavior's just changed. That's what our expectations are.
Yeah.
But it still leads to the opening up of a really good conversation point.
Right.
I think where the interesting thing about the development of bots is how does that further qualify and get the conversation to the next stage before you even have the phone call.
Sure.
It's, can you really understand what that person is looking for, and then that first phone call, instead of a tougher conversation, becomes an easier conversation because basically they've told you what you need.
It's all out of the way. Right.
All the preamble's out of the way.
Which allows you to do more with less. It allows you to scale.
That's right.
Right. You take
efficiency.
care of the things that can be automated, if you will.
That's right.
That allow you to do more of the real dollar productive activities that are your expertise as a real estate professional.
I also think that the other thing that it allows you to do is, as you get good at it, is to show your true personality. Once you go from, let's say, the bot initial qualification, when you're having a real conversation back and forth on Messenger, you can throw some personality in and really begin to learn who that person is before you even get on the phone.
Yeah. Good point.
I think it takes down that friction point and it allows for a real human moment in conversation. So as much as we talk about sometimes does technology desensitize us to personal interaction, I think it actually add to it. And I think that's a great case in point.
Right.
Where
It's not necessarily just Messenger. It could be email. It could be text.
Absolutely.
It could be right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So in light of all this, the millennials are taking over the world. Technology and chatbots and automation is taking over the world. That whole transfer of wealth, knowing that people are delaying families, things are just kind of moving later into life.
That's
the
true.
whole.
Yes.
4 years of college, get a job, white picket fence, 20-year job, but those kind of prescribed, those just don't really exist in that mindset of that generation. What do you think that means for the concept of the home ownership, the American dream? Is that still something that is there?
I think it is. I definitely think
I mean, you have a 10, 11-year-old daughter. I mean, do you think, where do you think she's going to be when she's thinking about this stuff?
No, she's already talking about, home and roots and doing her own thing and making a home is the most personal thing that you can have outside. It's funny, the two things that you can probably personalize the most in your life are your phone, your Facebook feed, and your home, right? If you think about it, right?
Sure.
No two phones are the same. If you and I compared our phones and what apps we have on it, they'd be completely different.
Yep.
Our Facebook feeds, I've been married to my wife for 15 years. Our feeds are radically different, and she's the love of my life. And then your home, even if, your home is your home and it's your own individual expression of who you are and what you make of it. Yeah. So I think that those things still correlate extremely well to this generation. I think they've been later to get into the marketplace based on supply and demand, opportunity, and the economy and the entry point. I don't think it's diminished the desire. I think there's just maybe an extra layer that they have to go through to get to that point. But I wouldn't mistake that for a lack of want or a lack of need or a lack of thinking that it's not important. I still think that at the end of the day, it's part of ingrained of who we are. A sense of place, a sense of home is core to who we are
as a
society.
As a society.
Yeah, I think
so.
That's
The depression, the recession. Sorry, those that hasn't burned them to the point of saying homeownership isn't part of my future.
No, I don't think that. I think they're more apt to be transitory. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's taken them longer to get that firm first or second job where they then feel, I'm here, I'm confident, I'm going to start making that investment.
Right.
I don't think it's changed the fact that they want to do it. I think it's just moved the timeline back a little bit. I don't think it's changed the quintessential thought of home ownership. I think it's just that they are maybe later, just like they're a little later to have children.
Yeah, absolutely.
That hasn't changed the fact that they want to be parents.
Yep.
It's just they're doing it a little bit later.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think, we tend to love to jump on these ideas of, see, everything is changing, or if it bleeds, it leads. That would be like saying our population is dwindling because people are waiting until their mid-30s to have children. I mean, I have teammates that are having children in their mid-30s versus, my parents had me when they were in their early 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, any other closing notes or thoughts?
I think the other closing note I would make is that, I'd go back to what I first said, which is, any marketing strategy you really want to start with as you think about plotting out success for your business really does need to be mobile first.
Okay.
I can't, when I meet people, when I go to industry conferences, I continue to stress it again and again and again and again, simply because to me it's just a base point of success. What I would encourage people in the real estate industry to do is, be a cultural anthropologist for a moment and look at what's going on around you in the course of your day and see how they're interacting with mobile, and then think about the time spent on mobile being the eyeballs you want to ultimately drive sales.
Okay.
So if I came up to you and said, I have a technology that basically has 90% of the people on it every day, multiple times a day, for hours
times a day,
for hours on end.
Yeah.
You would look at me and say, sign me up.
I want in.
I think where there's a gap is this idea that I can't do it. But I think through partners, as we talked about earlier, if you put your faith and reliance in good, qualified partners to do it for you or with you, you're going to get success. And I think early stages of maybe mobile marketing, that wasn't always the case. And I would say that if you've had a bad experience before, I'd say go back in it again. And if you're continuing to find some frustration points, I would say keep at it, because ultimately that's where you need to be.
Right.
And if I were starting my own real estate business today, I wouldn't start without a mobile first strategy. And I think that's just sort of the basis of where I would go.
All right. Well, mobile first. You heard it from the expert at Facebook. So, Scott, thank you.
Thank you, Rivers.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Always.
Didn't wreck my car.
Didn't wreck your car. We didn't kill anybody.
I'm used to being in the other seat for these. So.
Oh, really? So you're the first time driving doing this?
I think so. We've done some testing. But,
well, you've done a damn good job as a driver and as a host. James Corden, watch out.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on the next episode of Driven.
Cheers.